I attempted to collect all 222 obtainable exotics in one stream. Now I know what you're thinking, that's impossible, and normally I'd agree with you, but I'm going to be taking you on this borderline insane journey with me and explain how we attempted to do the impossible. Know that A, this was recorded before Season of the Deep, and B, this isn't counting Debt Messenger or Revision 0, that's why I brought up the word obtainable. This is by far my most ambitious challenge that I've ever taken on the channel, so if you do enjoy this, please hit the like button, and if you're new, go ahead and subscribe as we'd love to have you, and if this video hits 10,000 likes, we'll attempt this challenge in Destiny 1. Also, I'll be live at twitch.tv/cbgray doing more challenges like these, so if you want to see these live, make sure to come check us out. Now, before we can start this journey, we gotta give some context. In Destiny 2, challenges serve as the pillar gameplay experience that keeps us playing well after the new content comes and goes. Whether it's world's first races that are the true pinnacle test of teamwork, or solo challenges that showcase just how insanely skilled individual players are at this game, one thing holds true. The player wants to be tested. We've seen this hold true with the increased number of players that participate in world's first races, or just how insane some of the solo challenges have gotten in this game. But what if I told you there was another Destiny 2 challenge that's never been done before? Well, that's exactly what I set my sights on. So to explain what this challenge is, we need to look outside of the game for a second. What's the #1 gaming franchise in the world? Minecraft? Nope. Fortnite? No. Good old Pocket Monsters. I mean Pokemon. But what made this game and franchise so popular? Was it the feeling of beating every gym to reach the Elite Four? Was it the unique designs of each Pokemon? Was it trading and battling with your friends? While all of those things did play a role to why Pokemon took the world by storm, there's one phrase that embodies best why Pokemon became what it became. Gotta catch them all. What keeps players playing after the gyms and exploring each region? It's completing your Pokedex, and it's something I've done multiple times as a kid. There was something so magical about catching every Pokemon in your Pokedex. Now fast forward to 28-year-old me, and I'm sitting at my dinner table watching Johnstone catch all 898 Pokemon that exist in one stream, which took him 11 days by the way. And this video is a masterpiece, so please make sure to watch it. I drew a ton of inspiration from Johnstone on his challenges, so please check out his channel. You won't regret it, his videos are fantastic. So while I was watching him, I was just thinking to myself, I wish we had these types of challenges in Destiny 2. And that brings us back to our game. So I was thinking, what do we collect in Destiny that excites us, that we try to make sure we collect all of, and that we have some insane reactions to when we finally get them?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I got fucking Galahorn! I got the Galahorn! Oh my god, I got fucking Galahorn!
That's when the light bulb went off in my head, and the idea came to me. In the universe of Destiny 2, the pursuits of exotics stand as the pinnacle aspiration for Guardians. These powerful weapons and armor pieces have a unique aspect to them that captivate players with their powerful abilities, cool designs, and legendary stories. When Destiny 1 first launched, you'd see your friend with an exotic you've never seen before, and it'd make you say, hey, where'd you get that? I want that. Same thing at the lunch table when I was growing up with Pokemon. Something about exotics in Destiny 2 makes you just want to catch them all. So that's what we're gonna do. But taking a step back from the challenge, it's important to note most players don't have all of the exotics in the game even after playing for years and years. Some exotics can take weeks and months of failed attempts to obtain that rely completely on RNG. Some exotics require lengthy quests that test your patience, and some exotics require 6-player fire teams that are impossible to obtain by yourself. I'm so grateful to you all for supporting this insane live stream and making it possible. I want to say thank you to Bungie for supporting this video and giving me the creative freedom to turn this challenge we did into the video you're about to watch. So before we can climb the tall mountain that is obtaining all 222 obtainable exotics in Destiny 2, we need to first talk about some pre-hurdles and challenges that we needed to overcome before we could even start the challenge. The first challenge that we have to overcome is figuring out how in the world we can obtain 40 exotics in the Exotic Monument Kiosk that all require an exotic cipher. 42 weapons if we count Hawkmoon and Deadman's Tail from Xur that also require exotic ciphers. The reason why this is a problem is because Xur normally only gives one exotic cipher a week from a quest called Xenology. If we take into account the exotic cipher you can get from buying Lightfall Deluxe, the 3 Forsaken ciphers you get from buying Forsaken, the 1 exotic cipher after finishing New Light, and the Season Pass exotic cipher you get from getting the 55 in the pass, it would still take you 34 weeks to collect every exotic in the kiosk. And I don't know if y'all realize this, but there's only 52 weeks in a year. So if I wanted to do this challenge on one account in one stream, I would have to dedicate 65% of the year to complete this challenge. So how in the world can we complete this challenge in one stream? Well, to overcome this, we need to break the mold of how we traditionally think about Destiny 2 challenges. Normally the idea would be to collect everything on one account, but this isn't a traditional Destiny challenge. In Pokemon, when doing a Living Pokedex challenge, aka collecting all 898 Pokemon, it's not about doing it all in one game. In fact, that'd be impossible. You need multiple games like Ruby, Diamond, X, Sword, Violet, etc. to make a challenge like this possible. The real challenge and mastery comes from determining how much time to put in each game, and which game to collect certain Pokemon from, and how to be as efficient as possible. This is how we're going to be tackling our exotic cipher problem. We'll be using multiple versions of Destiny 2, aka multiple accounts, to make this challenge possible. How, you might ask? Well, the answer might surprise you. That segues us to our next issue that I know is currently on your mind, and that's what happens if I fail at getting an exotic that requires RNG, that requires waiting a week if you fail it 3 times. Example of these would be raid exotics and dungeon exotics. Well, if I fail at getting an exotic 3 times on one account, I'll be forced to rebuy the DLC and the dungeon pass and try it again on the next account. Good thing I have to make multiple accounts anyways to get the exotic ciphers, so hopefully as long as RNG is on our side, solving the first issue with the exotic ciphers should solve this issue with the raid and dungeon RNG as well. That's a big if though. If RNG is not on our side, then we could get screwed. Now that we've solved our first 2 dilemmas, the third hurdle is a cost issue, as I'm sure you can already imagine. Every time we buy a kiosk weapon on a different account, we'll have to buy the DLC associated with it. For example, if we're on our 3rd account and I obtained an exotic cipher and purchased Witherhoard, and then on my 4th account I obtained an exotic cipher and purchased Ariana's Vow, I would need to buy Shadowkeep for both respective accounts. Also, if I fail 3 times at getting Conditional Finality, I have to rebuy Lightfall and try again on another account. I'm sure you can imagine that this can get pricey, so my target range is to stay between $500 and $1,000, which may sound steep, but there's 40 exotics in the kiosk and most of them are tied to DLC, so we kinda have to spend money. Lastly, for those that are gonna get in the comment section and say, hey, there's more than 222 exotics, there are 3 exotics that posed an issue when it came to this challenge. When I first started playing this challenge, it was before Lightfall had even dropped. My plan was to attempt this challenge right before Guardian Games, as Heir Apparent is only obtainable during this event. I had no idea that Bungie would be removing Revision 0 and Dead Messenger from the game. Granted, they're coming back in Season 22, Heir Apparent would still not be available when these weapons returned, so I figured now would be as good a time as ever to attempt this challenge, and we'll just exclude Revision 0 and Dead Messenger from this challenge. With that being said, exotic engrams are not guaranteed from pinnacle drops, the exotic cipher cap was still only 1, exotic fishing didn't exist yet, and they didn't add the legacy triumphs that allowed you to get boosted chances at getting old raid exotics. The final thing to knock out before starting this challenge is to establish some rules. Number 1, I can create as many accounts as I want, but they all must be fresh accounts. 2, I can farm raid and dungeon checkpoints, but they must be originally obtained by me. 3, the challenge ends if the timer hits 0. It's a subathon, so each sub adds time to the clock, so either the stream will end when I get all the exotics, or the stream will end when I run out of time on the clock. And 4, no cheating, but that's a given. Now that we have everything out of the way, we can start this impossible journey. I started with everyone's favorite part of the game, New Light. This is supposed to be Bungie's way of catching the new player up and introducing them to the world of Destiny. I'm now a full-fledged guardian that totally knows everything about the last 6 years of the game, I think. Also, who's this Cade guy? As I'm doing the New Light experience, I purchased the Lightfall Deluxe Edition as we're gonna need it anyways. That comes with the Season Pass and I pick up the first exotic on our quest of catching them all. Vergless Curve. 1 down and 221 to go. What did I get myself into? I quickly notice a trend that's going to become a problem later in the challenge. The new player in the Guardian ranks experience is very restrictive. We're going to come back to this. I press forward through New Light where I'm able to pick up the first exotic that Bungie intended to give us. Zalo, I mean the Wrist Runner. 2 down. I pushed through the rest of the New Light experience. With the purchase of Lightfall Deluxe, we're $100 down, but that also comes with being able to pick up our 3rd exotic in the challenge, the Quicksilver Storm auto rifle that can also turn into the grenade launcher. Another perk to Lightfall Deluxe is we get an exotic cipher with it. I don't quite have the materials for it yet, but surely it can't be that expensive. That assumption's gonna come back to bite us. While my wallet is already out, I take the time to purchase Forsaken. Not only does this give us my favorite raid in Last Wish, but it gives us 3 Forsaken ciphers. I decide to only use one of them right now, as the other 2 are going to be really important for purchasing the raid exotics with spoils. We're going to be grabbing Anarchy and Tarba on this account. In the meantime, with the 1 remaining Forsaken cipher, I decide to purchase the exotic sniper from Black Armory, the Izanagi's Burden, to give us a powerhouse exotic in the early game. 4 exotics out of the way. With the addition of Lightfall in the game, Shahan got a new exotic quest for Arbalest that requires Lightfall. I pick that up and I get to work on it. Next, I take a trip to Nessus to the Watcher's Grave. I started this challenge during the weekend and this is the first reason why. Zur. Zur's going to be one of the biggest carriers of this challenge. I get to Zur and I realize an issue that will persist throughout the challenge. Legendary shards are scarce as a new player, and the Ikora glitch isn't here anymore. This was a problem that I didn't realize would slow things down as much as it did during the challenge. I decided to start the legendary campaign for Lightfall as it's great for shards, it's going to get me to the soft cap, it's going to get us an armor exotic, and it's going to help complete my Arbalest quest. After a few missions of saving shards and dying to the annoying and broken lifts that hate me, I was ready to revisit Xur with what he demanded. I bought the Bombardiers and the Warcliff Coil, getting us our 5th and our 6th exotics respectively. I couldn't yet afford the Faded Engram nor the Titan or Warlock exotic, so I got back to work on the campaign. After a few more missions, I was ready to pick up our first exotics for our other 2 classes in the challenge. I purchased the Insurmountable Skullfort Titan Helmet as well as the Ophidian Aspect Warlock Gauntlets, 8 exotics down. I pushed to get the rest of the legendary campaign done. I didn't really expect for it to be that hard as I've done it before, but the weirdest things kept happening to me.
Oh, you're saying this is giving us invincibility?
I was finally able to pick up the Arbalest Kinetic Linear. This is going to be huge for the early game of the challenge, 9 exotics down. After picking up the Arbalest, I head back to Nimbus to complete the campaign. After hearing everything he has to say, I'm able to pick up the Strand Hunter exotic helmet. Don't make me say this, please. The Seer Terracnes Facade? I don't know. We're officially in double digits now with 10 exotics. After this, we're ready to spend our first exotic cipher that we got from the Lightfall campaign. Remember how I said we'd come back to the price? Well, here's what it cost. This is insane for a new player. Luckily, with the legendary shards and the glimmer we got from the campaign and the golf balls we got from buying the deluxe Lightfall, we're ready to make our first exotic cipher purchase. I decided to purchase Witherhoard as it's still one of the best exotics in the game, 11 exotics down. Truthfully, I forgot how much I relied on using Witherhoard's Catalyst, but it's still a really good weapon nonetheless. With that, we now have Izzy, Arbalest, and Witherhoard in the kinetic slot, a huge start for the challenge. I set my sights next on Xur's Faded Engram that was extremely expensive. After finishing the campaign, I decided the next best thing to do to get shards would be to grind Rumble as the game's end fast and it was double XP for Crucible so I could get a ton of engrams. I was blown away at the number of people that were just AFK bot farming in there. I guess I don't really play enough Crucible. Now obviously luck is going to play a huge role in this challenge whether it's good or bad, and honestly I was scared to see what Lady Luck had in store for me. With that being said, I was grinding Rumble as fast as I could to get back to our best friend Xur, and then this happened. First world drop within the first day of the challenge. This had to be a good sign. After finishing my Rumble grind, I returned back to Xur where he proceeded to take all of my legendary shards to my name in exchange for the sweet Faded Engram that he had for me. I opened it up and I got our 13 exotic of the challenge, Monte Carlo. I picked up the Xenology quest from Xur while I was here. I planned on using it later in the challenge and I'll elaborate on this in just a little bit. In hindsight, I probably should have been doing Xenology while I was doing Rumble, but I wasn't really planning on winning those Rumble games, I wasn't tripping. I decided to create my second account of the challenge. My plan was to do 2 things on each of the accounts that I would make. 1, purchase Forsaken to get the 3 Forsaken ciphers, which would then net me 3 more exotics, and 2, pick up Xenology from Xur. My struggles continue as I make another discovery. I was hoping to skip New Light on my other characters and just go directly to the tower of my other characters in hopes of being able to save time and just pick up the Forsaken Cipher exotics, but unfortunately I didn't realize that you have to go halfway through New Light to get to the tower. I push through the busy work and I make it to the tower where I purchase Forsaken. I decide to purchase Limonarch, Ace of Spades, and Jotun, bringing us up to 16 exotics. After this, I try to fly to Nessus to pick up Xenology from Xur. This is when I learned that you can't fly to other destinations until New Light is fully done, which takes roughly an hour of playtime. Normally an hour wouldn't be the biggest of deals, but when doing this for double-digit accounts, this would add up really fast. Once I finish the New Light quest, I pick up Xenology on my second account from Xur. This is where something happens that's going to be by far one of the most important ways of getting exotics in the challenge. Vex Incursions. For those that don't know what a Vex Incursion is, let me briefly explain. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the public events that spawn on Neomuna. Well, rarely these public events will spawn that actually drop a guaranteed exotic. You can tell by hovering over the public event and looking at the rewards. The exotic will guarantee you an exotic armor piece that you don't have, which is key. I head back to my first account. I'll refer to this as my main account from now on during the challenge to keep it easy. After finishing the event, I'm rewarded with Frosties to bring our counter up to 17 exotics. Not bad. To my surprise, before we start working on anything else, we get hit with another Vex Incursion that we quickly knock out, and we get Oathkeepers, netting us our 18th exotic. After the event, I created our third account. Once again, our objectives are Forsaken Ciphers and Xenology. I take the hour to power through New Light, and then I purchase Forsaken. With the ciphers this time, I decided to buy Thorn, Truth, and Bad Juju, bringing us up to 21 exotics collected. Our good luck trend continued when a Vex Incursion happened to spawn after picking up Zeology on our third character. I hurried back to my main account and knocked out the event. I was rewarded with Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves for my efforts, and this brought us up to 22 exotics. I decided that I'd set my eyes on Heart Shadow next. This weapon tried to make it its business to ruin this challenge, but we'll get to that later. I naively decide that I don't need to do the triumphs for extra RNG, as I strategically made sure to start this challenge during the week that Duality was farmable. I tried Duality 8 times before taking a small break. As we were passing the first 24-hour mark, I was pretty happy with 22 exotics. 10% of the challenge done on the first day, not bad. Instead of sleeping, I decided to do the thing that any Guardian would do to not only wake themselves up, but to boost their chances of RNG. I had Evan egg me in the head.
2. Oh, it's cold.
Spoiler,
Please.
it didn't work. After a quick shower, I decided it was unfortunately time to move on from Duality, with it being 24 hours before the weekly reset. In normal circumstances, I would have continued farming, but I made a massive miscalculation. I didn't realize that once I finished the Xenology quest that it wouldn't just automatically give me the cipher, and that I actually had to return to Xur. This meant that I needed to actually finish all of my Xenologies before the weekly reset, or else I wouldn't be able to get exotic ciphers the following week from Xur. I started the challenge on Sunday so I could make all my characters and then pick up all the Xenologies on each character. Then I figured I could just finish each quest at my leisure before the following Friday. This was the first of many major miscalculations I made during this challenge, and it would cost me big. With this knowledge, I knew I needed to kick it into more serious gear and get all these accounts created. I create my new account and I get to work on, you guessed it, New Light. This gets old really fast. I get pretty lucky while going through this, and I get 2 Vex Incursions to spawn, getting us Stompies and Shinobu's Vow, bringing us up to 24 exotics. I finished New Light and purchased the Forsaken campaign one final time to get the remaining Forsaken ciphers we need to purchase Last Word and Lumina, getting us up to 26 exotics. The next part of the challenge was one I knew I was going to dread going into this, the busy work that's getting the Xenology quests done. Normally these quests take 21 activities to complete: strikes, then Gambit wins, and Crucible wins. Keyword: losses count for nothing. You can also get double the points if you have clan members with you for it. This meant with clanmates I could knock this out in 11 strikes. After a few Crucible losses, I deemed it was not worth the effort to do Crucible just to possibly lose and waste all your time, so I decided that I'd do strikes. I also decided it was a great time to start a clan. I named it CB Subathon Clan because I'm not creative. I got comfortable and I started my grind. Side note, Bungie, I love you, but please change the weighting of the Battlegrounds in the Vanguard Ops playlist. It feels like the Vanguard Battlegrounds playlist. While grinding for ciphers, we get a Vex Incursion to spawn. We power through it and we're rewarded with Shards of Galanor, bringing us to 27 exotics. I was starting to get fatigued by the constant strikes as well as racing against the clock before the reset, so I decided to try something. I was curious if a Master Nightfall would give me more progress on Xenology than a normal strike. I bang one out as fast as I can at my current power, and this happens.
This is chalk. Look at my stream. This is
Oh,
chalk.
18
That's
minutes.
insane.
After grinding to get the ciphers done on my 5 accounts I had created thus far, I was exhausted. I decided to wait for a Vex Incursion while in bed for 30 minutes max before getting my first sleep of the challenge. Then something crazy happened. A Vex Incursion spawned and I snagged a Phidias Spathe. That brought us up to 28 exotics, and I'm thinking that's a pretty decent way to end my first session. Then before I can even finish my thought, a second Vex Incursion spawns back to back. I get Lucky Raspberry to represent the luck we just got, bringing us up to 29 exotics. As you can see, Vex Incursions are going to be vital for this challenge. I tap out just before the reset despite the wave of good luck, feeling pretty defeated at 5 accounts with ciphers. This combined with my Deluxe Lightfall cipher, picking up Quicksilver Storm, as well as obtaining all of the Forsaken ciphers necessary, left me at 28 exotics left. Now I know what you're thinking. What about the New Light ciphers you mentioned earlier? Well, I kinda ran into an issue here. None of us could figure out how to get the New Light exotic cipher Triumph to show up, so we deemed it was removed from the game. You'll see later just how detrimental this assumption was. I decided that it's time for a nap now after 37 hours straight of streaming and 29 exotics. It had been 48 hours since I last slept. I wake up 7 hours later feeling energized and ready for more. I'm sad I missed 3 Vex Incursions while sleeping, but it couldn't be helped. Speaking of Vex Incursions, one spawned just as I woke up. I pick up Celestial Nighthawk, bringing us up to 30 exotics. I decide it's time to switch things up and decide which ender is next on our list. I go to pick up some of the quests from the kiosk by the postmaster. Much different than the old days, but after that, most of the Wish Ender quest is exactly the same besides no Tangled Shore Step. I knock it out quickly, bringing us up to 31 exotics. I also picked up this weapon because it's an absolute beast in the late game. I actually heard this bow in my dreams, I used it so much. Another Vex Incursion spawns and I hurry over to get a hunter exotic I used to love, Raiden Flux, bringing us to 32 exotics. The next exotic I decided to hunt down is another quest that I picked up from the kiosk. Sweet business. The quest is super simple, so I was able to knock it out fast, bringing us up to 33 exotics. This also was our last exotic of the second day as we crossed the 48-hour mark. Honestly, I was feeling really behind as my goal was to do 20 exotics per day, but I tried not to get discouraged. The next exotic quest I set my sights on was Chaperone. At first I was in tears when I saw the quest required a Crucible reset, then Bungie saved me when I found out there was a second version of the quest that let me play Gambit. I never thought I would say that or be happy to play Gambit, but it made the quest much easier. You won't believe what happened next. This happened on my first game.
So basically oh. Do you know how long it took me and Sweat to get one of those?
Then, this happened.
Prospector, okay.
I knew I loved Gambit. 34 exotics down. While still grinding the shotgun kills for the quest, another Vex Incursion spawned, giving us Orpheus Rigs, 35 exotics obtained. The luck continues when I get back in the Gambit and I get a Volt Shot Ikelos SMG to drop. Not an exotic, but a huge drop for the challenge. I finally get my final shotgun kill, and I go back to the tower to claim my reward for all the Gambit I played. Chaperone acquired, 36 exotics off the list. Our next exotic came from a source that we haven't touched on yet that'll be a vital part of the challenge, and that's Season Pass engrams. These have exotic weapons in the loot pool, which is crucial because there's actually not really a lot of ways of getting exotic weapons that are random drops in Destiny 2, and that's because they were discontinued after Shadowkeep with Monte Carlo. The main way to get exotic random drop weapons are World Drop exotic engrams, the Season Pass, and faded engrams from Xur. Also Xur boxes from Dares of Eternity, but we'll talk about the boxes later. The good thing about this engram is that it's bad luck protected, so I actually made a mistake by opening these engrams so soon. If I was to redo this challenge, the optimal strategy would be unlocking all the armor in the game before opening these engrams to guarantee exotic weapons always dropping from these. Despite this, I still get an exotic weapon because luck was on our side. RNG blessed us with Lord of Wolves, bringing us to 37 exotics. Also, Sweat piped me when we hit our sub goal. Next, I took on everyone's favorite campaign, Shadowkeep. You may be wondering why, and I'll fill you in. So Shadowkeep works differently than every other campaign in the game, where it has exotic armor exclusively locked to beating the campaign on each character. So in order to get Assassin's Cowl, Phoenix Cradle, and Stormdancer's Brace, I have to complete Shadowkeep 3 times. Is it too late to back out of this challenge yet? I powered through the campaign and I obtained our 38 exotic on the list, Assassin's Cowl. As I'm finishing another Vex Incursion spawns and I'm able to pick up Caliban's Hand, I'll take it. Since we knocked out Shadowkeep, I felt like the next best thing to do was to knock out Xenophage. It's still a beast of a weapon, so I figured it'd come in handy. I got to work on the quest and honestly it was a blast reliving it. The final boss was not as hard as she used to be, mainly because she wasn't working. After she dies, I go back to Eris and she gives me my prize, Xenophage, for the big 40. Taking a break from Shadowkeep but wanting to keep the quest going, I decided next we would work on the secret mission from Season of Defiance, the Vex Caliber. Not quite the Whisperer or the 0 Hour mission, but I honestly did really like the challenge of this, before it was nerfed of course. I killed the final boss and obtained Vex Caliber with way less effort than I did the first time, 41 exotics down. I figured next, despite my Shadowkeep break, it made sense to return to knock out another throwback quest from this era. No, not Divinity just yet, but a rocket launcher in the game that you might have forgotten about, the Deathbringer. No one really talks about this weapon, but it does pretty decently. While getting the quest going, another Vex Incursion spawned and I picked up Lucky Pants. Maybe it'll bring me some luck to this challenge. 42 exotics down. I get back to grinding the quest and I found this quest to be a little bit more refreshing than I realized. I finished the quest and collected the weapon, bringing us up to 43 exotics. Since we're on the subject of rockets and we've already knocked out 2 dungeon exotics already, I figured it was time to knock out our final non-RNG dungeon exotic. I purchased the 30th anniversary and I headed into Grasp Avarice. Without too much difficulty, we were able to pick up the weapon that in D1 determined if you could join a fire team, the Gallahorn, bringing us up to 44 exotics. While we were grinding, 2 more Vex Incursions spawned, giving us 2 very scary hunter exotics in their primes, Renewal Grasp and Gemini Jesters, 46 exotics down. Since we knocked out some of the DLC exotics in Shadowkeep, I figured now was a pretty good time to do some more. I set my sights on Lightfall as I knew that I would need a considerable amount of grinding for Final Warning and Winterbite, which was also time gated, so I needed to get to work. I start off with the one I didn't mention because it was the easiest, Deterministic Chaos. This exotic quest is pretty straightforward, and in about an hour's time, it was mine. 47 exotics off the list. With it approaching the third reset of the challenge, I decided it was time to get a very important step out of the way for another Neomuna exotic. This time my eyes were set on Winterbite. This quest has a step that requires you to spend keys on terminal overload chests in all 3 terminal overload locations. The kicker is each location only spawns every 3 days and changes at the daily reset. My plan was to knock out the first location with it being so close to the reset, and then the second location right at reset. Then I could close out Winterbite the following reset. This would cut 72 hours into 25 hours worth of waiting due to time gates. With that explanation out of the way, I knocked out the first location. After this, I was feeling pretty sleepy and I owed my community a pool jump, so I decided it was time to wake myself up in the freezing cold pool.
It's time!
After dying and coming back to life, I took a nice warm shower and I was feeling somewhat energized. The daily reset had also passed within this time, so it's time to head to the next terminal overload location. I get extremely lucky and I spawn into a basically finished tier 3, and I get 2/3 of the quest done for Winterbite. Before I could start another quest, another Vex Incursion spawned.
Oh, it's not a drill! It's not a drill!
I was already on Neomuna, so I didn't have to travel far. I beat it quickly to receive our 48th exotic Star Eater scales as an awesome pickup. The next exotic I set my sights on was Final Warning, and I can't lie, I wasn't looking forward to it. This exotic requires you to unlock all Strand subclass abilities, and I knew it'd take a good amount of grinding to unlock them all. I get comfortable and grind Strand upgrade materials until my eyes bleed, and I'm eventually awarded with our precious Final Warning, 49 exotics down. At this point I was getting tired again, and it's not like I had slept much compared to how long I was up, but I knew it was time to knock out another campaign that I knew would be a thorn in my side if I didn't start it. I decided it was time to take on the Beyond Light campaign. I knew there were quite a few exotics I could get if I just knocked out the campaign, some of those being No Time to Explain, Lament, Salvation's Grip, and Cloud Strike. While grinding the campaign, 2 more Vex Incursions spawned, blessing us with Mask of Bakris and Liar's Handshake, getting us up to the big 50 and 51st exotic. Despite feeling really behind, getting to 50 was a really big mental victory for me. With the challenge feeling more and more impossible by the day, this was a really good feeling. My goal before sleeping again was at least 1/4 of the challenge out of the way, crossing the 55 exotic mark. I had no idea the challenges and struggles that still awaited me. With all of the grinding I did, I made it to level 45 in the season pass. That meant that it was time to open up another exotic, so I was hoping it'd be a decent one. It ended up being Tractor Cannon. Not bad. 52 exotics down. After some more grinding, we finally unlocked Stasis and finished the Beyond Light campaign. I was finally given the reward I was pursuing, the No Time to Explain from the Stranger, 53 exotics. Next, I wanted to grind out the Salvation's Grip quest, but I was shocked on how much busy work you had to complete to even really start the quest on Europa. I decided that I would return later to do the Beyond Light exotic quests. Next, I wanted to try something out, and this is where I ran into another huge issue that would plague me for the challenge. By this point, my hunter was up to 1800 power. Not too bad to say I hadn't done any power grinding. I thought now would be a good time to test something. Normally when I do Grandmasters on my main character, I get duplicate exotics as my reward, but that's because I own every exotic on my main account, so naturally that would happen. I had 2 questions I was curious on. A, can Nightfall/Grandmasters drop random drop exotic weapons? The answers online are so split that I couldn't tell if you could or not. The second question was, is there bad luck protection on the exotics that drop from Nightfalls? We would see shortly. I decided to start putting on some of the gear I had unlocked up to this point. Wish Ender was great for red bars at low light, Volt Shot Ikelos, and a Storm Chaser from Duality. What I wasn't expecting was what I saw next. I couldn't equip Resilience mods. And that doesn't just mean armor mods. I couldn't put on any mods entirely. That includes weapon mods too. These were blocked until Guardian rank 5. Bungie, why? Normally this wouldn't be an issue, but getting to Guardian rank 5 on double-digit accounts was not time I was willing to sacrifice for the challenge. I was going to be doing Grandmasters 40 power under with 30 resilience and no mods. This should be fun. As you can imagine, this was going to plague us for the entirety of the challenge. Luckily, Bungie made the change to Lightfall that champion mods didn't need to be slotted on your armor to use them, or I would have been cooked. Also, it was Hypernet Current Week, which was a slightly easier GM. We start the GM, and as you can imagine, anything can basically one-shot me. Despite this, I hold my own to the best of my ability, and Wishender still makes quick work of the red bars. With some patience, we beat the GM and I'm awarded with an exotic that turned out to be a dupe. Yeah, turns out GMs aren't bad luck protected. I did get 2 golf balls as well. Those will at least be helpful. With that failure, our first 3 days of the challenge concluded, and we are now officially 72 hours into the challenge. Not wanting to end on that note, I decided to run it back. Not sure if it was good luck or bad luck, but in the middle of the run, I got a Vex Incursion to spawn. I quickly knock it out and I'm given the 6 Coyote from the RNG gods. Pretty decent exotic for the hunter. 54 exotics and first exotic of day 4. I dive right back in, and this time I'm met with an exotic that I don't have. Wormhusk Crown. It felt really good to get an exotic from the Grandmaster that I didn't have, but it felt awful having to roll the dice in hopes of getting an actual new exotic. All the same, another exotic off the list, and we're to the big 55. 25% done with the challenge on the start of day 4. I decided to do another GM, this time being Lake of Shadows, but I was only awarded with a single golf ball. Unfortunate. After one more attempt at Hypernet Current and wiping right at the end of the boss, I decided that was enough 40 under GMs with no resilience mods for a lifetime. Since I was very close to my next Season Pass exotic upgrade, I decided we would take the moment to grind the XP. I elected to do the Stun Champion Boss XP+++ challenge. I went to the moon by the Divinity Quest start and stunned the same champion over and over and over and over again. I named the barrier champion Barry the Barrier. I ended up letting him live when I was done too. I got to season rank 59 and I was ready to claim my prize. I opened up the engram and was given sealed Ahamkara Grasps, 56 exotics off the list. To be funny, I should have saved it for my 59th exotic. Speaking of saving, as I mentioned earlier, what I'm doing now is something I would not replicate if I did this challenge again. These exotics need to be strategically saved, but I'll explain that later. With the season rank 65 being so close, I wanted to keep pushing as I had 2 more exotics on the pass for the taking. I pushed for it and I was rewarded with Graviton Forfeit and the Borealis, bringing us up to 58 exotics. Being pretty tired, I decided it was bedtime as I hadn't slept in 34 hours. I was past the 1/4 mark, so I was okay with getting a little bit of rest. So far, we had been awake for 82 hours and asleep for 17 hours, so we've been grinding pretty hard. With that being done, I was almost ready to accept my fate within the Lost Sectors, but I decided it was time to knock out our last reset on Winterbite before doing that. So I knocked out a Terminal Overload and finished that step of the quest. Now that I had gotten some rest, it was time for more pain. 30 under legendary Lost Sectors, solo of course, with no resilience mods, or any mods for that matter, because apparently I love being in pain. I take a look at the champion mods to see its anti-barrier and unstop. Wishender was an easy choice for the kinetic slot, but I ran into an issue. I had no energy scout rifles or glaives for the use of unstops. This could be a real time waster if I had to grind an activity to get one to drop. I attempt one legendary Lost Sector with no unstop mod and I get sent to the Shadow Realm, even with Strand equipped. Then, out of the shadows, an unlikely hero emerged. Banshee, selling the Judgment of Kelgaroth. I'm sure most of you have no idea what weapon this is, but it's a glaive and it become a huge part of the challenge for us. With our new glaive in hand, we took on the legendary Lost Sector, but before we could go any further, it's important to note why I decided to start doing Lost Sectors on this day, or even further, why I decided to do the challenge on this week. It was because there were 4 back-to-back EDZ Lost Sectors this week. I figured these would be way easier than Neomuna or Moon Lost Sectors, so I figured this would be the optimal week to do the challenge. There were other factors too that we'll discuss later. With all that out the way, I gave the Lost Sector a shot and I was pleased with our RNG to start our Lost Sector journey. We got Speedloader Slacks to drop on our second attempt. I'll take it. 59 down. A few attempts later, we got the Radiant Dance Machines to drop from a Lost Sector, getting us up to the big 60. With all of the Vex Incursions, that actually completed our Hunter Leg exotics. Luck wasn't too bad for us with the Lost Sector Hunter Leg RNG. 2 out of 6 or 33% I can live with. We switch over to our Titan and we start off things really strong, getting the Antaeus Wards, 61 exotics down. While continuing to grind, I was faced with all types of challenges. The obvious things being there's no mods like I mentioned, but also had Goku with instant transmission dressed up as a champion. I continued grinding and the game finally showed mercy on me, giving me my favorite Titan exotic, the Lion Rampants, bringing us up to 62 exotics. That concluded our day 4 at 61 exotics, definitely behind where I wanted to be, but I knew we could catch up and get back on track. Continuing on our Titan Lost Sector grind, we started day 5 off with a bang. While in the middle of a run, I was just hoping to get an exotic in the chest and RNG decided to one-up me. We got a world drop and got Heart of Inmost Light for our 63rd exotic. Then when I opened up the chest, I was greeted with the Peregrine Graves, bringing us to 64 exotics. I kept grinding and with 9 more painful runs, I was only able to net 2 more exotics, the MK44 Standicides and the Doom Marchers, bringing us up to 66 exotics. The very next run, something very funny happened.
My friends. Oh, I thought he dropped an exotic. What was that? What did he?
The Tractor Cannon Catalyst blessed the run and gave us the Peacekeepers, bringing us up to 67 exotics. Another failed run, we picked up another 2 exotics from the Lost Sector in a row, which felt pretty good after only getting 2 in 9 runs earlier. We picked up Path of Burning Steps and the Abiant Leap, bringing us up to 69 exotics. Nice. It also concluded our Titan Leg exotics. Total, it took 26 runs to get the 8 exotics we needed, or about 30.7%. Slightly worse than my Hunter, but it could have been worse. We move on to my Warlock and hope to RNG for better luck. We start off with no luck on the first attempt, and then get insane luck getting us 3 exotics in a row. Lunafaction Boots, Secant Filaments, and Rain of Fire, bringing us up to 72 exotics. Would this luck continue? Nope, we failed the next 3. But then we did have things turn around. We picked up Transversive Steps the next run, bringing us up to 73 exotics. The next run, something crazy yet familiar happened.
Curious as to how much value people are going to get in the Lost Sector. Also, Catalyst! Catalyst!
Once again, a Catalyst blessed our run and snagged us our 74th exotic, Boots of the Assembler. 1/3 of the way done of the challenge. After some more grinding, we pick up 2 more Lost Sector exotics, the Swarmers and the Promethean Spur. This brings us to 76 exotics. After this, I was feeling pretty burnt out, but my community forced me to belly flop into the pool.
Alright, here we go.
After I dried off, I picked up our final Warlock boots, the Geomag Stabilizers, bringing us up to the Bungie number 77 exotics. For the Warlocks, it ended up taking me 8 out of 18 tries, or 44%. My Warlock had the best luck of the 3, and this is going to be a continuous trend. After being freed from Lost Sector Prison for the moment, it was time to put myself in a different prison. We were going back to Shadowkeep, and only this time for my Titan exotic. I kept running into this invisible glitch that I thought was patched a while ago throughout the day, and I thought it was funny that it was even messing up my cutscenes. Backpowering through the campaign a second time, but we finally finished it, rewarding me with my final pair of Titan boots, the Phoenix Cradle, giving me 78 exotics. With only 3 hours until the daily reset, I thought now would be a really good time to get a little bit of rest in, because when I would wake up, Xur would be here to bring me exotics like Santa Claus on Christmas. I ended up taking 4 hours just because when my alarm clock went off, I was still exhausted, but now I was ready to get back to it. I had promised my stream that when I woke up, the stream would be outside, so I took some time to set that up, and the second I got outside, a Vex Incursion spawned. Maybe I need to go outside more often, and maybe they'll keep spawning. I hurried to Neomuna and I finished the event, netting me my 79th exotic, the Omnioculus. After picking up the exotic, I work on getting my stream fully set up outside. It was a beautiful day out, but it was getting more and more windy as I was setting up. Don't forget about me bringing up the wind. I go to Xur and he has the Prospector, Lucky Pants, Armentarium, and Starfire Protocol. Unfortunately, I already have Prospector and the Lucky Pants, which I guess weren't so lucky, but I was able to pick up Armentarium and Starfire Protocol, bringing us up to the 80 and 81st exotic mark. Next, I pick up the Faded Engram for Legendary Shards from Xur, getting me the exotic Trace Rifle, the Coldheart, bringing us up to 82 exotics. After watering my grass and touching grass, a Vex Incursion spawned in, and I was able to get the Faux Tracer Helmet, bringing us up to 83 exotics. Now remember that wind I was talking about. It started getting so bad that it was blowing my monitors and my mic off my table that I had it on.
Okay. Okay. Alright, it literally is getting crazy. Well, guys, our first outdoor stream is, what's it called? Is getting ended by wind.
That's because I failed to realize we had a severe thunderstorm warning in the afternoon as well as a tornado warning. Once we were back inside, I decided it was time to head back to the Lost Sectors. It was another EDZ Lost Sector and it was Arms Day. After a failed first attempt, a Vex Incursion spawned that we rushed to Neomuna to do. I ended up getting Caprice Sting, bringing us up to 84 exotics. I head back to the Lost Sector, and as I'm starting to do it, I can literally hear the wind from my room.
Dude, I hear the wind. Good lord. So the stream's gonna end during the middle, and we're gonna lose power.
The power might go out.
Then in what might have seemed like me over-exaggerating at first, I was telling everyone that I could feel my room shaking and moving, but I had no idea what the noise was, and I knew it wasn't the wind. It was another noise I hadn't heard before.
That's what I'm saying. What is moving in my room? I'm confused.
What's that noise? Computer?
At this point, I'm starting to freak out, but my mic's really good at canceling out noise, so no one can really hear anything. So I decided to take off the filter on my mic, and this happened.
Guys, I'm serious.
pray stream doesn't end. I'll turn off the filter and let you hear what it sounds like in here. It sounds ridiculous in here. Here. I'm serious. I think stream might end. I pray it doesn't. But seriously. Listen to this. I've never heard anything like this before. Ever. I'm not kidding. Like, stream might end.
So on top of insane wind and thunderstorms and tornado warnings, it started hailing. And I mean serious hail. Huge sized hail pelted our house for what felt like an hour. I thought for sure the stream was going to end. This challenge was already hard enough as it is, and now we are literally being faced by the elements during our challenge. I quickly went outside in a hard hat to try to move all of our cars. It was the most insane hail I'd ever seen in my life. Real life stasis, you could say. While I'm moving in the cars in a hard hat, a Vex Incursion spawned, of course. I quickly rushed to the incursion zone in my hard hat. Mother Nature is not going to stop me from getting all the exotics in the game. You can't make it up. I get my Knucklehead radar to go with my Knucklehead hard hat, bringing us up to the 85 exotic mark. I head back to the Lost Sector to finally start my hunter grind without any more interruptions. I have something crazy happen on my first attempt.
Okay. Oh!
We got Suros to drop from a world drop while doing the Lost Sector, bringing us up to 86 exotics. Unfortunately, the chest didn't drop an exotic this run. 7 runs later, yes 7, we got Arthrist's Embrace to bring us to 87 exotics. Terrible luck that I hope wouldn't continue. This also concluded day 5 of the challenge. So far, 5 days in, we're averaging about 17.4 exotics per day, which isn't horrible considering sometimes we do have to sleep like normal human beings. With those first 5-day metrics out of the way, it's time to keep pushing as I was wanting to get 100 exotics at a minimum before taking another break. We do another 6 lost sectors in order to get another exotic, this time being the Aeon Swifts. Absolutely brutal RNG there, but we are now up to 88 exotics. After 2 more attempts, I was able to get our final Hunter Gauntlets, the young Ahamkara's Spine, bringing us up to 89 exotics. Overall, the Hunter Gauntlet Lost Sector RNG was absolutely terrible. 3 out of 16 on attempts or 18.75%, absolutely horrible luck. I decided to take a little break as the grind had literally been demoralizing. I head to Europa and start to grind the quest that we unlocked since we finished the Beyond Light campaign. I set my sights on Lament the Exotic Sword. After a little bit of grinding, I finished the quest getting us our 90th exotic. A pretty fitting 90th exotic, I'd say. With that small break, I'm determined that it's time to head back to the Lost Sector prison. After 2 failed drops on my Titan, I snagged the Syntheseps, a massive pickup for my Titan, and that would bring us to 91. After another 3 fails, we had a pretty interesting sequence of events. First, a Vex Incursion spawned, giving us Dragon Shadow for my Hunter and getting us up to 92 exotics. Then shortly after, a second Vex Incursion spawned. We fly right back to Neomuna and finish the activity, giving us Gerfalcons, 93 exotics obtained. With all the grinding, we're now at 79 in the Season Pass and ready to open up another exotic. I make a bold prediction that it'll be Thunderlord.
Thunderlord. Thunderlord. Thunderlord. Here we go.
We had a super small chance of it being Thunderlord, 4% to be exact, with everything remaining. With Thunderlord obtained, that's 94 exotics off the list. After this insane prediction, we go on to get exotics from the next 3 Lost Sector chests in a row. We hit a hot streak and I was not complaining. This got us Aeon Safes, ACD Feedback Fences, and Wormgut Caresses, bringing us up to 97 exotics on the list. One thing about RNG, if we know anything about it, is that it'll humble you real quick. The next 6 chests dropped absolutely nothing for me. Luckily, the next run I was able to pick up Doomfang Pauldrons, getting us 98 exotics. Right after opening the chest, another Vex Incursion spawned that ended up giving us the Blight Ranger, 99 exotics down. At this point, I can taste the 100 exotic mark and I want to push as hard as I can to get it. After 2 more failed Lost Sector runs, I was able to finally cross the triple digit mark, getting the Silent Ramparts. An exotic worthy of number 100? I'll let you choose. Either way, getting 100 exotics felt really good despite being behind. The challenge was still feeling impossible, but I tried to keep my morale high as it was really important to celebrate every victory we could. After 1 more failed attempt, I decided to try a Master Lost Sector despite my low light and no resilience mods. It was brutal and painfully long. I beat it and I get nothing for it, and I decided I'll never do that again. Luckily, after the pain that run put me through, I was able to snag 3 exotics on my next 3 Legend Lost Sector chests. We got Ashen Wakes, No Backup Plans, and Stronghold, bringing us up to 103 exotics collected. The next part was absolute pain. Not only was it after 4 AM and I was really tired, but RNG was not on our side. It took us 16 tries to get our final 4 Titan exotics. Ursa Furiosa, Icefall Mantles, Second Chance, as well as Point Contact Brace, bringing us up to 107 exotics collected. Overall, it took 41 tries to get 13 pair of Titan Gauntlets that we needed, or 31.7%. Not great, but it was at least a step up from our Hunter. It was now time to switch over to our Warlock, and I prayed our RNG would be better, as I knew it would be a race against the clock to get every exotic on my Warlock before the daily reset. My RNG starts off awful, failing my first 3 tries to get an exotic on the Lost Sector. Then something special happened. I tried another Lost Sector, and then this happened.
I'll take it.
And then we attempted a second Lost Sector, and then this happened.
Oh my gosh, Vet, keep it going.
And surely a third one couldn't happen. And then a Vex Incursion spawned before I could even attempt another, which I already thought was insanely lucky, but then this happened, and it got even wilder. We finish the Vex Incursion and leave the engram on the ground for the time being and end up getting the Raiju's harness. We then backtrack and pick up our engram, and it decrypts the Vigilance Wing. We then return to the Lost Sector, and I think surely since I already got 3 exotics in a row from the Lost Sector, as well as the 2-for-1 special in the Vex Incursion, I had assumed that my luck had dried out. But instead, this happened.
Yes, let's go! This is insane!
This by far had to be the craziest sequence of the whole exotic challenge in terms of the non-stop back-to-backs. From this sequence alone, we shot up from 107 exotics to 113 exotics. Things cooled off a bit as I continued to grind before the daily reset. In the next 11 runs, we were only able to snag 3 exotics, getting the Aeon Souls, the Osmiomancy Gloves, and the Balador's Wrath Weavers, getting us up to 116 exotics. Overall, our Warlock ended up getting 7 exotics in 18 runs, or 38.8%, being the best luck we got on the exotic gauntlets. Unfortunately, despite the amazing RNG, we weren't able to get all of the Warlock gauntlets because we ran out of time and the daily reset hit. Once the reset hit, I felt like it was time for some needed rest. I took a 6-hour nap and woke up feeling refreshed and ready to grind. It was time to grind the next Lost Sector, this time being the chest piece. Once again, it was the EDZ thanks to the pre-planning we did before the challenge, so we had another manageable sector to work with. After 2 attempts, we were able to start things off strong with the Curious Falling Star chest piece bringing us up to 117 exotics. You might be wondering why I didn't start on my Hunter. Well, I only had 1 exotic chest piece left on my Hunter, so I knew I could snag it in a Vex Incursion later. Right after the Lost Sector finished, a Vex Incursion spawned, bringing us the Cadmus Ridge landscape, getting us up to 118 exotics. This concluded day 6 for us, with us at 118 exotics and being officially over the halfway mark of the challenge. Day 7 kicks off with terrible luck. 10 failed Lost Sector attempts in a row. Luckily during this time, 3 Vex Incursions spawned, sparing our souls with Hoarfrost, our final Hunter chest piece, the Gwenson Vest, and the Hallowfire Heart, bringing us up to 121 exotics. Our luck turned around a bit as we picked up 3 exotics in our next 6 Lost Sectors, giving us Severance Enclosure, Actium Warrig, and Crest Alpalupi, bringing us up to 124 exotics and completing our Titan chest pieces. Overall, 4 out of 18 on Titan chest pieces, or 22%. Moving on to the Warlock, we start things off pretty strong. 2 real quick exotics in a row, with the Lost Sector drop and a Vex Incursion spawn right after. Not too bad. We picked up Mantle of Battle Harmony and my favorite Titan helmet, the Tinfoil Hat or Precious Scars, 126 exotics down. The good luck continues in the next run. In my mind, I was just hoping that a second exotic would drop out of the Lost Sector chest. I definitely wasn't expecting this.
Melee ability with the glaive, I end up looking so dumb.
Oh! Oh!
I wait to pick it up to see if the exotic drop will bless the next chest opening, and what do you know? This happened. A fun fact, so far almost every time a world drop or a catalyst is dropped within the Lost Sector, it's almost always been followed with an exotic coming out of the Lost Sector chest. I run back to pick up the exotic and I'm given the Astrocyte Verse, 128 exotics down. In the next 10 Lost Sector attempts, I was able to snag our last 4 Warlock exotics, Sanguine Alchemy, Chromatic Fire, Phoenix Protocol, and Vesper of Radius. We also picked up 2 Vex Incursion exotics during this period as well, in the Verity's Brow and the Karnstein Armlets, bringing us up to 134 exotics. Looking at our Warlock stats, we ended up taking 13 attempts to get 6 remaining Warlock gauntlets, or 46%, destroying our Titan's RNG. All 3 Lost Sector farms that we did, our Warlock swept our other characters when it came to RNG. The total percents were Hunter 22.7%, Titan 29.4%, and our Warlock winning the RNG battle with a remarkable 42.8%. You may be thinking too, what about the helmet lost sectors? Well, I figured Vex Incursions would be enough to get our remaining helmets as we continue progressing through the challenge, so this was at least for now the end of our lost sector prison sentence. Getting back to the more entertaining activities, I decided it was time to refocus on the Beyond Light quests. We start off with everyone's favorite and most powerful weapon, the Salvation's Grip. This was recorded before the changes to Salvation's Grip, so this was it still in its old state. The amount of busy work on Europa that you have to do before you can progress some of these quests has really snuck up on me, I can't lie. Regardless, we buckle down and get it done, granting us the Stasis Blaster, 135 exotics down. Staying on the theme of ice and stasis, I decided it was time to snag Winterbite, now that we completed all of our time-gated aspects to it. With a little bit of grinding, the Broken Ice Trident was ours, netting us 136 exotics. Shifting gears, I already told you all earlier that Zur was here and he brought us some exotics that we picked up as well as some crazy hail. All jokes aside, now it was time for us to take advantage of his services again. It was time to buy another one of his faded engrams on each account for legendary shards, spend the ciphers he gave us from last week that we had saved, as well as picking up new xenology quests as well. I start off with jumping on my second account to spend the exotic cipher that I have on that account. My original plan was to buy a golf ball from Rahool, as I figured this would be the easiest way to get a golf ball on all of my newly created accounts without having to buy any of the new DLCs. I ruled out some of the other methods such as Grandmasters as I was nowhere near the required power, vendor resets as it would be a huge time commitment to have to do for multiple characters, grinding to the end of the season pass which was just not fun, finishing the final seasonal story mission, and a few other options that just didn't seem worth it. Rahool seemed like he was going to be the one to lead us to the promised land. I knew that before I could purchase a golf ball from him, I would need 10 enhancement prisms. I start thinking of the best way to get these as a new player. After some brainstorming with everyone, I decide on doing Legendary Lost Sectors. You only need to go into the Legendary Lost Sector solo for the exotics, not the prisms. Or so I thought. You may be wondering what just happened, but I had just died in the Lost Sector with my teammates since I'm a low power level to be expected, and they opened the chest and I got an exotic to drop from the chest, as well as the prism that I was already expecting. I decided to run it back thinking that this was an outlier. Until this happened. I was getting exotic drops from the Legendary Lost Sector with my teammates. These drops were not locked to the daily exotic type either. I got a chest piece and then boots on helmet day. Truly a strange discovery, but was something I knew I'd want to test more as it could possibly be useful under a couple conditions, the main one being if it happened to be bad luck protected. I get the 10 prisms we need and I think we've won the battle, so I head to Rahool. This is where we ran into another huge problem, as if things weren't already feeling borderline impossible nearly a week into the challenge. I go to give Rahool the 10 prisms and he looks at me and laughs and slaps my 10 enhancement prisms to the ground and tells me to come back at Guardian rank 6 because you aren't cool enough. Bungie, why does Guardian ranks lock you out from buying from Rahool? Guardian ranks, while made to help guide the player, unfortunately does more restricting. First mods, and now I can't buy golf balls. I was in serious trouble, as this could mark the end of the challenge. I didn't have hours and hours to dedicate to getting to Guardian rank 6 on double-digit characters, or doing any of the other golf ball methods that I mentioned earlier. I started searching all over the internet to see if there were any other methods that I wasn't familiar with, which I thought was just a long shot, but I was really out of options at this point. And then I stumbled upon an unlikely hero. Reddit. Apparently, Bungie, without telling anyone, changed legendary dares to have the ability to drop Ascendant shards once Lightfall dropped. This was the stroke of luck I needed. If this was true, not only would I be able to get golf balls after just unlocking legendary dares, which just takes one normal run, but Dares of Eternity is also free, so it will cost no extra money per account. And the last biggest thing was they changed the power leveling in Master Dares after Lightfall, where now it operated on a Delta system, so even though I was under 1700 power and Legendary Dares was over 1800 power, the Delta system brought me up to the lowest power threshold. With that change, I could actually do damage to enemies despite my power level. It was the perfect storm, and I got to work immediately. After the 2 Dares of Eternity attempts, I got my golf ball. Not only that, but another added bonus was that I could farm Zur boxes while getting golf balls for potential chances at exotics. Or so I thought, but we'll talk about Zur boxes later. After getting my golf balls on my second character, I decided it was time to roll the dice on a legendary shard faded engram from Zur. More likely than not, I knew I'd get a duplicate, but it didn't hurt to try, besides having to refarm legendary shards. I got lucky and I picked up the Helm of Saint 14, bringing us up to 137 exotics, thanks to Zur. Wanting to ride out the luck, I jumped onto my third account to pick up the same engram to see if we could keep the luck going. I was pleasantly surprised to be greeted by Graviton Lance, another exotic we didn't have, bringing us up to 138. The luck didn't stop there when a Vex Incursion spawned. I quickly jumped back to my main account and finished the event, snagging us One-Eyed Mask and putting us to 139 exotics. The good luck continued as a second Vex Incursion spawned, and the second I logged into my main account, I was given the Mask of the Quiet One, bringing us up to 140 exotics. I jumped to my fourth account thinking that surely my good luck has to run out with these faded engrams, but what do you know? I got Merciless, bringing us up to 141 exotics. To wrap up day 7, I wanted to do something fun and not the same exotic cipher grind which I had been doing in the background to everything we've been discussing for this day. I decided it was time to do our first raid exotic hunt. I chose these weeks specifically so we could take advantage of certain featured raids, the first being Deepstone Crypt. I wasn't sure how long it would take, but luckily farming Taniks is pretty fast. We burned through the first 3 encounters of Deepstone to get us to our old friend Taniks. Our first 10 runs gave us no luck, but we did get blessed with another Vex Incursion spawn, so we ended up taking a quick break to grab that, giving us Laurely Splendored, 142 exotics down. After 4 more runs, Eyes of Tomorrow finally dropped. 14 runs honestly wasn't that bad, and it brought us to 143 exotics in the challenge. The first week of the challenge came to a close with 1 more Vex Incursion, giving us the Eternal Warrior and bringing us up to 144 exotics. With that, we were officially 1 week into the challenge, or 168 hours straight of streaming. We were averaging just about 20 exotics a day, which honestly was not a bad metric and I was pretty pleased with. While it may have seemed like the end was near on this pace, I knew the exotics toward the end would slow the challenge severely. Despite the very good pace I would say that we were on, I was still extremely nervous about how much longer this would take and if I could hold up for that long. One final thing we did on day 7 to wrap things up was test out the theory that we were talking about earlier of seeing when you have multiple people in the legendary lost sector if it'll drop exotics and if it's bad luck protected. And when we tried it out, this happened.
I told you at least. It's legs.
Day 8 was more of the same, so I won't bother you too much with it. I continued my exotic cipher grind to get all of the exotic ciphers that I needed. I did New Light and then Strikes, and then 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 oh my god! 2 Vex Incursions spawned, and I picked up Caprice Horn and Eye of Another World, bringing us up to 146 exotics. While grinding Strikes, we did have a couple moments where Bungie decided to have a little bit of fun with my sanity. First, this happened.
Please, not a dupe? What is this? What is this?
Those are questions for another day, I suppose. But for now,
Wait.
I already was at my breaking point with my sanity, so all I needed was one more anomaly to tip me over the edge. And then, this happened.
Some hash browns. Oh, wait, I'm not getting fooled again. I got fooled last time. This isn't an exotic, it's just some nonsense. I'm not being fooled by this again. I've already learned my lesson. This is not an exotic. It's not an exotic.
Even when I was prepared and determined not to let Bungie get my hopes up again, somehow they slipped past my defenses. The Rat King Sparrow, the other side, dropped. Finally, after a tireless grind, I picked up Leviathan's Breath from the Kiosk to get us to 147 exotics. Later in the day, I picked up Fallen Sunstar from the Vex Incursion, bringing us up to 148 exotics. Day 8 truly was a wacky day. It came to a close with one more Vex Incursion, bringing us Nezarec Sin, ending our day at 149 exotics. After this, I decided it was time for some much-deserved rest, and when I woke up, it would be officially past the weekly reset, meaning everyone's favorite event was going to be here, Guardian Games. I wake up after sleeping for 7 hours and Guardian Games is here. I see that Titans are winning, which is a fantastic way to start off my day. Spoiler alert, it doesn't last. Guardian Games is going to be a crucial part of this challenge for a number of different reasons. The most obvious being that now we had access to an exotic that's unobtainable 49 of the 52 weeks of each year. Secondly though, we now had an awesome way of farming legendary shards. Medals when turned in spam you with weapons that can be dismantled for legendary shards. I tried a Guardian Games playlist strike and the wackiness of day 8 continued. Every time I think there's no more ways of me being tricked into thinking something's an exotic, Bungie proves me wrong.
It says a common reward. Get the finishing blow. Please, weapon.
Wait, oh, it fell! I saw it! Oh!
Please don't be a catalyst either. I have no use for a catalyst.
I was told that lighting the torches could get you an exotic, so I was pretty excited and hurried over to light the Vanguard torches. I was sad exotics couldn't drop, but I did get an Ascendant Shard to drop. This was huge because this meant that I wasn't going to have to do Legendary Dares anymore, which only gave a chance of giving a golf ball. It wasn't 100%, where this was a method that I could get one each time very easy. I decided that we would take a break from the Xenology grind despite having a new method for golf balls. It's now time for what some call the best campaign experience in Destiny 2. No, not Forsaken, the Witch Queen. This campaign I needed to get going on because there's a quest in Witch Queen that not a lot of people think about that has a time-gated step to it, and that's the Witch Queen Glaives. While doing the campaign, a Vex Incursion spawns giving me the Stag. Right after I pick up my level 88 exotic engram on the Season Pass and I'm given Heart Light. And then before I can even get back to the campaign, another Vex Incursion spawns giving us Necrotic Grips. This brought us up to 152 exotics. Once I finish, I'm given Osteostriga, bringing us up to 153 exotics. I didn't have to bother with the legendary campaign as I already have obtained most of the exotic armor from Vex Incursions as well as Lost Sectors. After the campaign, I knock out the Parasite quest, getting me up to 154 exotics. The next Witch Queen exotic on the list were the exotic glaives. These require by far the most busy work before you can even start the quests. It's absolutely insane the work you have to put in with all the evidence board quests to get these. I get to work on some of the evidence board quests and this happens.
Those were wise words.
Oh! Turn it to Wumbo!
Come on. Turn it to Wumbo. It's Wave Splitter.
I called it! Let's go! I told you! Pretty lucky break getting Wave Splitter to drop, which brings us to 155 exotics. And then after the good luck, something interesting happened on my Warlock on the next Vex Incursion. Only this one was not good, and I'll explain why. I still had armor that could drop from the World Drop exotic on my Warlock. We decided to try something smart that would be a strat that I definitely will adopt next time in the challenge. I decided not to pick up the exotic engram and to let it go to my postmaster to wait until I got all of my Warlock exotic armor that could drop from the engram so that I could guarantee that I get a weapon when I pick up the exotic from the postmaster. After letting the engram sit, I got the Skull of Dire Ahamkara from the Vex Incursion. Then 3 more Vex Incursions spawned as we continued grinding, and we got Winter's Guile, Fellwinter's Helm, and Crown of Tempest, getting us up to 159 exotics for the challenge. After all I can take of the evidence board for one day, I decide it's time to go over to my other accounts to go get my golf balls and those characters so that I can buy Kiosk Exotics with them. With our new Guardian Games method of lighting the Vanguard Strike torches, I was ready to get the golf balls rolling. No pun intended. Of course, I made a fatal error once again. I wasn't high enough power. That's no matter, we can just light the Crucible torches on my other weaker characters. But then when I try, this happens.
It's not a golf ball on this side?
I guess PvP players just don't need golf balls. Once again, another huge miscalculation, which unfortunately meant we are back to legendary dares for golf balls. I pick up my Forerunner quest while I grind dares, and I get that done to get our exotics up to 160. After I get my golf ball, I go to the kiosk and purchase an exotic that used to have a quest in the EDZ in vanilla, the Mida Multi-Tool, getting us to 161 exotics. Next, I set my sights for Cloud Strike. Now I'll admit, no amount of busy work compares to the Witch Queen Glaives, but Cloud Strike comes extremely close. Grinding for everything you need at Varix is a pain. While doing this, a Vex Incursion spawned, giving us Apotheosis Veil, giving us 162 exotics. Now it was time to put our earlier strategy to the test. I finished all of my World Drop Warlock exotics, so I went back to the postmaster and I opened up the exotic engram we left sitting earlier. And thanks to our careful planning, we got Darcy to drop, bringing us to 163 exotics. Right after this, another Vex Incursion spawned, giving us the Nothing Manacles, bringing us up to 164 exotics. We continue grinding the busy work for Cloud Strike, and unfortunately this happens.
No.
Yeah, so I kind of forgot that I was using an LMG and that Heir Apparent would drop once the quest was completed automatically. Originally, I wanted Heir Apparent to be our final exotic, but oh well. 165 exotics down. After doing a bit more of my Witch Queen Glaive evidence board chores, I decided it was time to sleep. After a good 5.5 hours of sleep, I was ready to get back to it. I start off back in Cloudstrike Prison farming lost sectors to try to get all of Vex's currency. While doing this, the Darcy Catalyst dropped. After this, a Vex Incursion spawned, giving us Dawn Chorus, getting us up to 166 exotics. After a bit more grinding, we're finally ready to start the Cloudstrike farmable Empire hunts. After 14 attempts, my soul is finally spared and I never have to go to Europa again.
We're free! Freedom!
167 exotics down. I then pick up Trinity Ghoul with my final Season Pass exotic Engram on my main account at rank 98. 168 exotics down. I decided next it's time to do everyone's favorite quest without a shadow of a doubt. 0 hour, I mean the Malfeasance quest. Time for Gambit! While we're grinding Gambit, the Cloudstrike Catalyst drops, which I was hoping would be an exotic weapon. At this point, I'm gonna have every single exotic catalyst in the game. After knocking out the different version of the Corrupted Strike for the quest, and also getting my Gambit wins, all that was left was everyone's favorite part, the Army of One. If you don't know what that is, it's getting a full team wipe. I was dreading this step and I was nervous, but then I just decided to put on Xenophage, and then I got it first try. Yep, still busted. I wrap up the steps and I can finally claim my prize, the Malfeasance, which I didn't know was going to be getting a shiny catalyst in Season of the Deep. 169 exotics done. Nice. I went back to my usual cipher grinding and strikes to finish quests and legendary dares to get golf balls. After getting another Ascendant shard, I purchased Rat King on another one of my characters in the exotic kiosk, bringing us up to 170 exotics. It's important to note that by this time I was up to 11 accounts. Day 11 was more grinding cipher quests and materials on each of my accounts. I decided though, today was going to be the day that we also tried some RNG activities with each character. After I finished grinding materials, it was time to try for 1,000 voices. And to my surprise, after only 3 keys and 2 attempts, because I grabbed the extra key with the wish wall, this happened.
Oh, let's go! We got it!
171 exotics down. I then picked up a Kiosk Exotic with this character as well, the Sturm, bringing us up to 172 exotics. I tried 3 attempts of Duality and Spire of the Watcher, but I failed miserably to get either exotic on this account. I move on to the next account, and to my surprise, I'm able to get Hierarchy of Needs on my first try on my next character, or only my 4th attempt total.
Let's go! The One Piece is real!
173 exotics. Once again, I fail at getting Heart Shadow, and this unfortunately continued on every single character. Heart Shadow was cursed, and it continued to laugh at me. Up for over 24 hours now, part of me wanted to rest, but I knew there was another quest we had to do. A weapon that everybody wants, but a quest that strikes fear into fire teams. The Divinity. I'm gonna be honest, I had an absolute blast going back through the Divinity quest. It had been so long since I ran it that it surprisingly felt fresh and nostalgic. The boss is still annoying though. Anyways, we knocked it out and we got the fabled Divinity, bringing us up to 174 exotics. Wanting to stay on the rate grind despite my fatigue, I decided it's time to take advantage of Volta Glass while it's farmable. I hoped it would be under 10 attempts or less since I was running on fumes, but unfortunately it took 21 tries to snag the exotic, bringing us up to 175 exotics. After this quest, I had another exotic cipher that I was ready to spend now that I had my materials on my 7th account. I picked up the Sleeper Simulant, getting us up to 176 exotics. Now I was even more tired, but I knew there was another thing on the topic of Divinity that I had to knock out. One more Shadowkeep campaign for my Warlock chess piece. This hurt after 2 times, but I was able to knock it out faster because of this. Before I knew it, I had Storm Dancer's Brace, 177 exotics. I was ready for bed, but I was super close to the Friday reset, so I decided to tough it out. Once it hit, I ran to Nessus to go see Zur. He had Queenbreaker's bow for me, netting me 178 exotics. Next, we opened up our Faded Engram. There was a small chance this could be a duplicate since I had some weapon exotics on some of my other accounts that I had created. Luckily, RNG was on our side and we were able to get the most broken weapon in Destiny 2's history, the Telesto, bringing us up to 179 exotics. I do a tiny bit more grinding for the Witch Queen Glaives next. It's important to note that during these last few days, I had been grinding the red borders from each Wellspring rotation so that I could knock out the time-gated steps in the evidence board. I was now past that and to the point where I needed to level up Finch to get the replayable missions. Another step on the evidence board. This quest made me realize I never knew how annoying it was to level up Finch. I cheesed my rank all the way to max on day 1 of Witch Queen, which I'm sure a lot of you guys did as well. During my grind, I decided it was finally time to tap out. We had a majorly productive day and I knew we'd have more to do when I wake up. After 6 hours of sleep, it's time to get back to it. The plan was to dedicate the whole weekend to the kiosk grind. While grinding strikes with the Xenology quest, the bad juju catalyst drop, which I'm hoping will be a sign of good luck. I get my exotic cipher and I'm ready to pick up another exotic. All I need is another golf ball, so I start doing legendary dares to attempt to obtain one. Now, once again, something happened out of my control that happened earlier in the subathon. Before, it was the worst hail of my life. This time, it was the worst thunderstorms.
Oh, lightning round. Perfect, perfect. Nice. Like, we're up.
And our power goes out. Of all days. Really? A lightning round? In a lightning round?
Oh, hey. That was unfortunate. It looks like the end of the world outside. I can't lie.
This hurt especially bad since the last time we had a lightning round we were able to get 2 Ascendant shards. I get back to it and I try to stay positive. I pick up Polaris Lance on my second account, bringing us up to 180 exotics. I then pick up Outbreak Perfected on my main account because it's considerably more expensive than the other exotics. This brings us up to 181 exotics. After a lot more grinding to snag some more of Xur's Xenology ciphers, I picked up Worldline 0 on my third account and Ariana's Vow on my fourth account, bringing us up to 183 exotics. It's also important to mention that I decided it'd be worth it to reach 55 in the pass for some of our characters as well for the exotic ciphers. I was still missing a gigantic detail that was going to reveal itself very soon that could have saved me over a day in this challenge. While grinding, I get to a Season Pass exotic engram on my fourth account, giving us the Jade Rabbit, 184 exotics down. Next, we open up Xur's Fated engram for legendary shards on this character and it brings us Two-Tailed Fox. Really good luck considering I have a lot of weapons on my main account and engram could have just been armor on this account as well. 185 exotics down. Next, I pick up a cipher on our fifth account and I'm ready to pick up another exotic. We decide on the Bastion, originally from Quarters of Time, bringing us up to 186 exotics. On that same account, we open the engram from the Season Pass. I was fully expecting this to be a duplicate, but to my surprise, the good luck continued. Colony drop, bringing us up to 187 exotics. We spent our cipher on this account last week, but we still have our new Xenology quest, so we speed through this as fast as we can and head to the kiosk, this time buying Symmetry, bringing us up to 188 exotics. We then go back to my third account as we have the Season Pass exotics there, which we're really close to getting, so I grind for them. Once again, I'm shocked at our luck to actually get weapons and not armor or any type of duplicates. We end up getting Black Talon and Sunshot, bringing us up to 190 exotics. We then use my final cipher on the same character after some more painful grinding to get Devil's Ruin, bringing us up to 191 exotics. To end day 12, we pick up my favorite exotic weapon from the kiosk, Whisper of the Worm on my second account, bringing us up to 192 exotics to end our day. Day 13 was uneventfully brutal. All it consisted of was farming materials needed for the exotic ciphers that I had on each character, grinding the current week's Xenology quest for a new cipher from the current week, and lastly grinding the Season Pass while doing it to hopefully get lucky and pick up exotic weapons that I needed from the pass. Also, Bungie announced that Warlocks won Guardian games early. That was interesting.
It says Titans prevailed. Huh? Oh, what?
On my sixth account, after some grinding, I'm able to spend the cipher from last week, the cipher on this current week, as well as the Season 55 exotic cipher, getting us Tommy's Matchbook, the Fourth Horseman, and Traveler's Chosen, bringing us up to 195 exotics. Next, something crazy happens. I get on my 8th account and grind like crazy to unlock the Season Pass exotics. Now I've been grinding for days and opening a lot of Season Pass exotics, but most of them during the challenge, especially in the late game, have mainly been duplicates. So while I've talked about some of the ones I've gotten infinitely more duplicates. With that being said, I opened 3 exotics in a row with almost no armor unlocked on these characters, and a lot of the exotic weapons already obtained, so the chances of me getting an exotic that I actually need are not very great. The only exotics I needed were Cerberus, Huckleberry, Fighting Lion, Prometheus Lens, and Skybirders, versus the remaining armor and weapons that I didn't have. There was only a 6 out of 60 chance. Technically 5 out of 60% chance because I didn't have Forsaken. I let everyone convince me to buy Forsaken to help slightly boost the odds as it would add an exotic weapon to the loot pool, including Cerberus. I knew when I made that purchase I was wasting my money. But then this happened. Surely this couldn't happen twice.
2 and 1.
And 3 times would just have to be impossible, right?
And 1.
Well, 198 exotics down. The chances of that happening were just not supposed to happen. After some more grinding on this account, I pick up 2 exotic cipher weapons for this account from last week's Xenology as well as this week's. I get Agar's Scepter and Duality, bringing us up to the big 200 exotic mark. Only 22 exotics left in the challenge. I do the same thing on my 8th account and pick up Lorentz Driver and Tiku's, bringing us up to 202 exotics. Finish the day, I do the same process on my 9th account, getting us the Deadman's Tail from Xur, which also requires an exotic cipher, and the Cryosthesia 77k, netting us 204 exotics. I then get some much needed rest. After a quick 4.5 hour nap, I was ready to get back to it. Little did I know, this would be my final sleep of the challenge. Now before we go any further, 2 weeks had passed, and I just want to say thank you so much for keeping the stream going for 2 weeks. That was insane, the sub support was out of this world, and I just want to say thank you so much, seriously. On my 10th account, we grind really hard and spend our cipher from last week as well as this week's on the Trespasser and the Grand Overture, bringing us up to 206 exotics. Our luck from yesterday continues when I open up the Season Pass exotic engram that gives us Huckleberry. At this point, the odds are so far against us that I'm basically just writing off all the engrams on my other accounts until I get back to my main account. On my 11th account, we repeat the grind once again and I'm able to get Manticore and Delicate Tomb. Keep in mind, to get these exotics on each account, not only do I have to grind my face off, but I also have to buy whatever DLC weapons I was getting. In this case, Witch Queen. I go back to my 4th account and this is when I have a realization that kills me. Like, actually kills me. Remember when we couldn't figure out how to get the New Light exotic cipher to show up in the Triumphs when I was looking for the gear tab, so we wrote it off as a legacy thing? Well, I decided since I was so burnt out that I would just have another look and see if I could find that gear tab again. And then, this happened.
Oh, one of those completed it. One of those opened it.
Claiming all the Triumphs unlocked the final tab of the gear. I had an additional cipher on all 11 accounts that I never used. If I knew this, I probably could have cut the exotic cipher grind in half. Probably even more, to be honest. I was internally crushed. I at least used this knowledge to power through my last few exotics that I needed ciphers for. I grabbed Ruinous Effigy and Hawkmoon from Xur for a cipher, bringing us up to 211 exotics. That ended day 14. I was feeling so defeated, but on the bright side, we made it through 2 weeks officially, and the only exotic ciphers I needed left were the raid ones. Surely the spoil farm wouldn't be that bad. I started day 15 with the only grind I hate worse than the exotic cipher grind, the Witch Queen Glaive grind. Everything that I had done on the evidence board over the days was killing me slowly. I finally finish all of the evidence board and I start the actual glaive quest itself. Funny enough, the quest is super quick, it just takes a lifetime to get to it. I finish the quest and I finally get the pattern. I had to go to the relic to claim my prize, the Edge of Concurrence, 212 exotics down. Surely with all the work I put in, this has to be one of the best weapons in the game, right? Right? This is where the exotic cipher we realized we had access to from New Light came in handy. Bungie changed the Witch Queen glaives where instead of having to farm Wellspring for the other 2 glaives, which can take forever, you can also just buy them for an exotic cipher and other materials. I had one saved originally, but I thought I would have to do Wellspring for the other. I was very pleased not to have to do Wellspring. I picked up the Titan glaive second, the Edge of Action, with our exotic cipher, bringing us up to 213 exotics. Also, we hit our sub goal, so Sweat had to cut the Destiny logo in our hair.
I'll tell you.
You know, it's not that word tricorn. It almost looks like a heart, you know? Maybe that's what we're going
Did you
for.
put a heart in my head? There we go. What does it look like?
It came out looking like a heart. While I was grinding materials, as all the spending gets quite expensive, I was also knocking up my pinnacles, and I'll tell you why. I was getting worried and desperate that this challenge might never end. And that's not because of the raid or dungeon exotics that I needed to farm. I was most terrified by far of fighting Lion, and I'll tell you why. It's completely RNG, and there's so few ways to get exotic weapons. That's why I said in hindsight I should have saved all of my Season Pass exotic engrams, because if I would have waited until I had all of the exotic armor, all of the engrams would have been weapons. Now my engrams have been tapped out, as well as all of my faded engrams on every character for Xur. Not only that, remember how I said we'd talk more about the Xur boxes from Dare of Eternity later? Well, I was actually grinding these boxes while I was doing the legendary dares on each character for Ascendant shards. Well, according to what it says, you're able to get exotic engrams from rewards on these. Also, online Reddit posts state people got exotic weapons from these as normal world drops. So you'd think with all of the Dares of Eternity that I did that we'd at least get one exotic to drop out of the Xur boxes, right? Well, out of the almost 30 boxes we opened up, I got 30 legendary weapons, 17 treasure keys, 10 coins, 9 certificates, 1 upgrade module, and 0 exotics. I was banking on the Xur boxes to be a great way of getting exotic weapons in the late game, but unfortunately Xur failed me. And he failed me bad. Man, I could use fishing right now in this game. I hit rock bottom and I'm reduced to farming all my pinnacle activities in hopes of getting lucky. Remember, this is before Season of the Deep, so there's no exotic engrams that you get from pinnacles yet. I knew this was a lost cause and I was doubting the chances of me finishing this challenge. And then in this Gambit game, this happened.
If we could somehow get Fighting Lion today, the whole course of today will be altered. No. No, there's no way. Please, I just said it. If I just said it and it happens.
Now I know what you're thinking. Isn't this guaranteed to be Fighting Lion since it's the last exotic that you need? Well, if this was on one account, you'd be absolutely right. But my exotic weapons are spread out across 11 accounts. Unfortunately, this was going to be a 1 out of 10 chance. I said a prayer to the RNG gods and I opened up the engram, and this happened.
Yes! No way! No way!
214 exotics down. That was all of our world drops done. I couldn't believe it. This was the biggest weight off my shoulders. Feeling great, I head back to Mars to grab our Warlock Glaive with our final cipher giving us the Edge of Intent and bringing us up to 215 exotics. I have 2 big challenges next that I plan to face head on, Conditional Finality and Touch of Malice. I prayed that we didn't use up all our luck with Fighting Lion. I also owed my community a hot tub stream for all the crazy sub support, so this will be a world's first Root of Nightmares run. I got comfy in the hot tub because I figured I'd be here a while. But then after I killed Nessie in the hot tub to get my world's first clear, this happened.
My memory will never extinguish.
Yup, at 6 AM on no sleep in a hot tub, Conditional Finality dropped for me on the first try, bringing us up to 216 exotics. This was wild. Remember, if I failed all 3 of these attempts, I was gonna have to buy Lightfall again. After drying off and resetting up my stream inside the house, it was time to take on Oryx. Luckily, King's Fall is free, so even if we failed a bunch of times, I wouldn't have to pay extra. Surely Oryx would put an end to this inhuman luck. Well, after our first attempt, I thought we were back to reality. But then on our second attempt, this happened.
No. Oh, I heard it! I heard it! I heard it! I genuinely heard it. I heard it. I 100% heard it. I heard it. I 100% heard it. I did hear it. I heard it in my headphones. I know I did. I know I did. I told you!
What in the world was happening? This took me 1 trillion times on my main account. You guys remember Touch of Malice hating me. The sun was back up again and I hadn't slept in basically 2 days now, but I had too much adrenaline to stop. The next part of our grind was going to be the most painful part. The next chapter of this video is called 720 spoils farmed in one sitting. The way spoils work is you can indefinitely farm the most recent raid for spoils after your first time doing it. This means I could theoretically do Root of Nightmares encounters 720 divided by 5 equaling 144 times to get all of the spoils I would need for Legend of Acreus, Taraba, and Anarchy. I knew this was going to be painful and hurt dearly. I get started with Nessie and find after a few runs that Nessie is way too inconsistent and I elect that it's time to start the first encounter of Run instead. It's much quicker and we were averaging below 5-minute runs when we were focused. However, this luck would run out. So the daily reset hits and there's some downtime, so I take a quick shower. I come back to an update that doesn't let you change your weapons automatically anymore.
Let's try that. And then now you can shoot. That's crazy. And let me do it again. I'll swap to something else. It just doesn't let you shoot.
I grind as hard as I can, and after 48 encounter completions, we had our 240 spoils for our first raid spoil weapon, Taraba. 218 exotics down. Remember at the beginning of the challenge when I was telling you guys that we were going to be saving 2 Forsaken ciphers for the end of the challenge? Well, this was why. This would save us from needing 2 additional exotic ciphers. So far the grind was painful, but it was going as well as it could be. But I was noticing something. After the update, the servers were getting progressively worse. I hoped that they would get better, but unfortunately our prayers weren't answered.
Rip the game being taken down? There's no way. Do not say that. There's no way it's being taken down. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me, man?
The servers were shut down and there was nothing I could do about it. We lost hours on hours on hours on hours due to error codes and the server shutdown. Unfortunately, this was going to be the end of our day 15 and there was nothing we could do besides wait for the servers to come back on. Still running on no sleep, the servers finally come back on. I get back to grinding the spoils, but I've completely lost my momentum. I try my best to get it back, but it was a brutal grind. I lose track of how long I'm in spoil prison, but eventually I get my 240 spoils and I head over to pick up Anarchy, giving us 219 exotics. I switch back to my 4th account as now he has an extra exotic cipher because of the new light realization we made earlier. I get right back on the grind and I finally get my last 240 spoils. I did a little bit of Vault of Glass at the end to switch it up. Instead of my estimated 12 hours, it ended up taking 19 hours to get all 720 spoils that I needed. After getting the 240 spoils, I went back to the kiosk for my final time of the exotic challenge to claim Legend at Acreus, 220 exotics off the list. It had almost been 3 days since I slept, but I couldn't stop now. We were too close. Next, it was time to hunt down the most elusive exotic of the exotic challenge, the Heart Shadow. We start grinding and it's not going well at all. We were burning through each of our accounts, failing all 3 times over and over and over. I was getting scared I might need to make another account if this continued. Finally, on my 21st attempt of the day and on my 7th account, the Heart Shadow finally dropped and it was mine.
Turn up the song! Turn it up! White Cats, let's go!
In total, it took 49 attempts to get Heart Shadow. Absolute insanity, but 221 exotics were crossed off the list. After that, all that was left was Collective Obligation, and lucky for us, now that it was the Tuesday reset, Vow of the Disciple was the weekly rotating raid. All of the stars were lining up, and it was finally time for us to finish this challenge. Before we grind for our final raid exotic, we should recap all the raids and dungeons thus far. It took 3 keys to get 1,000 voices, Eyes of Tomorrow took 14 tries, Vex Mythoclast took 21 tries, Touch of Malice took 2 tries, Conditional Finality took 1 try, Heart Shadow took 49 tries, and then Hierarchy of Needs took 4 tries. It now all came down to one final raid. Sweat and Evan tagged along for the final exotic of the challenge. We chugged through the raid and we finally made it to Rolk. It's time to finish this challenge. The first time we down Rolk, I wonder if it'll be another conditional finality moment. Nope. Second attempt, we go again and I wonder if it's going to be just like Oryx. It doesn't happen. After my 3rd fail, I start getting nervous that maybe we might have another Heart Shadow on our hands. But then, on our 4th attempt, this happened.
See you later, bud.
Here we go. Here we go. Please.
I was here.
Please.
Bro, where's one of my
Defiant Engram. Wait. Oh, let's go! Let's go!
What I believed.
Let's go! Hey, all right, here we go. All right, here we go. Oh!
My ear!
Let's go!
Son of a-
Let's go! It's over! Here we go! It's over! Oh, still!
The adrenaline rushed through my body despite me not sleeping for the last 72 hours. The stream had been going for over 400 hours straight and I had only slept for a little more than 70 of those hours, so my bed was calling me. My mind was already on the next Destiny 1 subathon though, so if you guys want to make that happen, make sure to like and sub so we can start planning it, and follow the Twitch at twitch.tv/cbgray so you can see it live. And just like that, this concluded the story of how I collected all 222 obtainable exotics in 16 days, 19 hours, 12 minutes, and 48 seconds in one stream. Thanks for watching.